Is there, and I have read it, and particularly it relates to these four roll numbers: 39,500, 39,100, 38,300, and 36,800, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor, but after hearing from Councillor Oliver's recommendation not to sell those 3 lots, and I initially thought that was one of the ones where I was having one of my problems with, but because we own a lot and it's eroding the one neighbor's, it doesn't look in this photo like that is the spot, so I would remove that, and that is 39,100.
You also want to remove 39,100, which is the 3 lots in a row.
Yeah, it won't give us much money to protect that road, but something's better than nothing.
And I also want to make sure that 36,800, the last one of the 3 on here, is the one that the Bruns have requested. And all 3 of these lots on here are individual, separate lots. Correct? Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Black? Yes. Councillor Oliver?
My only other question or comment, I'm glad to see my colleague chose to remove that one that is an accumulation of 3 lots, but I still have a concern over the implications of the staff report that's being requested. As I said again, and I'll just say it briefly, I don't mean to repeat myself, but the only way for me that this makes sense, and it does address part of what Councillor Black was talking about, is if those remaining 3 single lots were declared surplus and offered to the adjacent property owners. What that does, Mr. Mayor, if that were to happen, it doesn't create a new owner, it doesn't create new expectations and opportunities for development, whatever might ultimately be permitted there. It would blend with the remaining lot that the property owner on either side owns, I would expect. And therefore, we would not be raising the possibility of any further new property owners coming down there. Now, that's not what his motion says, and for that reason, I can't support it as it's worded, even with those ones removed that we've removed. But I can see the value of getting rid of ownership of those, but only if they were split and separated to the 2 adjacent property owners. I'm sorry to complicate matters, but...
No, I understand fully your line of reasoning. I understand that fully. Councillor Height?
Mayor Luke, I'm wondering if I could ask the county manager if that's possible, because it's sort of like picking favorites, and I'm not sure if that's open and transparent, because you have 2 property owners, one on each side. Is that our procedure?
I do understand that to be our default procedure, yes. I haven't been asked the question, but I feel obligated to inform you that I've spoken with Mr. Sluchenkov, and I just ask you to turn your minds to the number of issues that are facing the Corporation of Norfolk County that have a real property basis, and understand that we have sort of 1.5 staff persons who do that function. And I cannot look you in the eye and tell you that we can definitely comply with the motion. That we would do our very best to bring you a report for December were you to pass this, but I cannot say in good conscience that that is possible. We just might not be able to comply with that, certainly not with the level of quality I would want. That I feel quite confident in. And so I just throw that issue out there, not to make your debate more difficult, but because I'm not sure that's feasible at this point in time, given the very heavy work volume on a very limited staff. I just want to say that. But with respect to, your immediate question, or whoever's immediate question, I do believe it's possible to make the offer to adjacent property owners prior to putting it out to sale to a wider public.
Thank you for that. And, there is a lot of mumble jumble on the bottom of those, and I could totally delete all that if the clerk would come up with the spiel to where we declare them surplus and sell them. That's good enough for me. What would be the typical procedure that we would go through?
Okay, Mr. Clerk, your comment to that comment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the county has policies on declaring land surplus and selling them. And I would say that doing that would be inconsistent, and there are provincially legislated policies under Section 270 of the Municipal Act. So it's not a small policy to leap to do something like that. It's a rather big shift, so we want to make sure that we're giving proper public notice of our intention to do that.
So without all of this very wordy spiel at the end of this motion, I know we've gotten rid of other properties and it doesn't have that great big spiel. What spiel should we be using then?
Are you asking what,
The clerk, just
what
like we
wording we
declare
would
every other
have
property
to declare
surplus?
these surplus, or to put staff into looking into declaring these surplus?
Pardon me?
Okay, I guess I'm hearing from staff that we have a policy to dispose of land. We have to follow provincial regulations. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Maybe you can explain that again, that we should be declaring property surplus? Okay, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. County Manager, perhaps just something general to the nature that staff report back with a general process to declare the properties surplus and put them up for sale, and that would give staff the leeway to bring back what you're looking for.
Well, the very first thing really does it for me. It says declare these properties surplus to municipal needs. And then our policy and process would take it from there, would it not?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I mean, the thing I should mention is if at any point council as a body decides to waive any rules, you certainly can. You can waive your procedures on the declaring a property surplus. You could sit here tonight and say this is the minimal price that we want to accept for these three properties. It's a difference of whether or not you want staff to prepare a report and give you their opinions upon what the prices should be and upon declaring those. So it's up to council to make those types of decisions, and if you want to waive any procedures or rules that we act under, you can.
Okay, so with that being said, if I just use that first paragraph, that staff be directed to present a report to declare the following properties on Hastings Drive, or no, we don't need a report. I don't need one. Just to declare them, the staff be, that what council declares these properties surplus to municipal needs. Will that get the process, will that get the job done?
It's an unusual exercise to be amending a motion that's been debated. I mean, if you want to repeal the motion and put forward a new motion, that is an option to you. You can ask council for their leniency in repealing what's before them and put forward something different if you just so desire.
I'm just looking to come up with something so that
The clerk
Councillor
is-
Oliver would be happier. It's awfully wordy, Mr. Mayor, to get rid of three properties. It seems painful.
The clerk is suggesting, Councillor Height, that rather than continue to change this motion that we have debated, just repeal this and then put your motion on the floor. If you get a seconder, that you declare the following three properties surplus, whatever else you want to add to it. That's what you're saying. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to intrude again, but some of those properties, we believe, clearly encroach on Hastings Drive. Accordingly, which isn't currently a problem because we own Hastings Drive and we own the property. So you can live with the challenge because either way it's you, right? We could create enormous legal issues if we simply declare them surplus property without resolving that issue, which in and of itself would, if I can give you my advice, be reason enough to request a staff report to go with the original as opposed to simply declaring surplus, where property lines are in dispute and which will create or lead to eventually a legal dispute that's entirely foreseeable. Thank you.
Councillor Height and Councillor Brunton, this is your motion. How do you want to proceed here?
We'll proceed with it, Mr. Mayor. I look at these three properties, I don't see the encroachment issues. We have clear indication from Norfolk GIS that these properties are further south of the road allowance. So there shouldn't be an encroachment issue on these three properties, if GIS is correct, which I'm assuming it is because I remember at one point Rhodes did a survey of it. So there's three properties here. Seems like an awful lot of work, but it's better to get us out of this position now, and I'll leave the motion as it is, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Councillor Brunton.
Thank you, Mayor Luke. I'm going to support it, and I'm not quite sure where it's going, but, you know, this whole thing's getting to be a bit of a nightmare, and I guess I like to think we're here to help people. And if they own property out there and they pay some taxes, let's try to help them. Let's try to help them. And as long as there's a road out there and there's cottages, we got to maintain it. And I'm not worried about a few encroachments. Most of the people probably don't even know where the road exists. I know we did a survey a while ago and we had different encroachments, and actually our road was on some property, and you know, it is a nightmare. But when Long Point, when we passed this motion to let them do emergency shoreline protection, I think that's the proper word we passed, if I'm not mistaken. It was to help these people, not just on Hastings, but anywhere on Long Point, to protect their property. And that's what we're here for, to help people. So they pay, and it bothers me to this day that when Mr. Dukesbury showed up at Long Point, and he gave us a long song and dance of why we shouldn't be doing what we're doing, but I asked him one question. I said, what do you think, if you own property, what would you do out there? You know what his answer was? You should be able to enjoy it. Now, I don't know what that meant. Stand on the road and look at it? Like, people they're not asking to build down there. All they want is the ability to save their property, maybe go down there and put a trailer on it, possibly, if the OMB passes that part of the bylaw. I don't know, but right now, let's not throw up roadblocks to stop everybody from doing something down there. Let's try and help these people that have a problem. Thank you.
Councillor Columbus.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to get a last comment from Ms. Robinson on this whole issue, being that County Manager mentioned encroachments and different.
Through the mayor to council, there are small portions of some of these lots that actually currently contain our municipal road. In addition, we have areas where there are utilities, et cetera, that believed to be in the right-of-way, although it's not the right-of-way, it's actually county property. I would respectfully request that if council is going to sell them, that part of the instructions to staff be that we are able to I'm going to say, do a survey to reduce that area so that we're actually able to retain that as part of our right-of-way, and we don't, in fact, sell property that we need to maintain as a right-of-way. I think that the intention of Councillor Height's resolution can certainly be met, but we just need some instruction that we cannot sell the entire lot so that we have the ability to retain a small portion to have it converted to right-of-way through the sale process.
Continue.
Follow up, so how much time would you require to finalize that type of action?
Through the mayor to council, I believe that if the appropriate direction is given with the resolution that you're passing this evening, that it can take place. It's something certainly that could take place at the time that we actually sell it. So we don't need so much advance, we just need to we need to have the direction so that we can work at it as we're dealing with the sales. We can just retain it, we can have a survey done at that time, retain a piece of the property and move it forward without delaying anything at all. We just need to be clear in the motions that we're passing that we do intend to keep a portion of it for municipal purposes, that portion being immediately adjacent to the right-of-way.
Councillor Wells, please.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, certainly I want to congratulate Councillor Height for bringing forth the motion to get us out of some trouble that we have found ourselves in. However, the more I sit around this table and the more I listen, I'm not sure that if we follow Councillor Height's motion, that we are going to solve all the problems. I think we're going to just create more problems. I'd like to suggest, Mr. Mayor, that a much better solution would be, we understand the intent, that we turn this over to staff and have them come back with some information so that we know that we are dealing on solid ground and not making up issues as we go along. Maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that, maybe we own this part, maybe we don't own this part. Why don't we do it right the way that we should be doing it and say, yes, we're interested in these lots, but turn it over to staff and ask them to come back with a report so that when we deal with it, we are dealing with facts and not fiction. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Height?
Thank you, Mayor Luke. I would bring to council's attention, it does say at the very last line, and further that staff be directed to present the report for consideration in December of 2017. That could have encroachments dealt with. If there's an encroachment, bring it in the report. Nothing in here sets this whole thing in stone without a staff report in the first place. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'm ready.
Any other discussion? Then I'm going to call the question. It will be a recorded vote as requested. Any other discussion on the motion? I think, Councillor Wells?
Specifically, are we voting on?
Well, do you want me to read the motion?
I certainly do, with all
Well,
the
if you ask me, I'll
ramifications.
do it. And since you've asked me, I would be pleased to read the motion. Been moved by Councillor Height and seconded by Councillor Brunton that staff be directed to present a report to declare the following properties on Hastings Drive surplus to municipal needs. There are 3 of them. There is the one ending with 3900-500 roll number, the one ending with 38-300 roll number, and the one ending with 36-800 roll number, and that specific one is the ones that the Bruns have come forward this evening that got this started. And that the staff report include 2 proposals for minimum listing price, one to be based upon the county's formula for determining sale price, and one based upon knowledge of recent sales of lots on Hastings Drive, and that due to the unique nature of Hastings Drive lots, a formal property evaluation upon the lots is not required within the staff report. And further, that staff be directed to present the report for consideration in December of 2017. Had enough? No. Councillor Wells, you have the floor.
Just again, for clarification, what we are asking staff to do is bring back a report, but this evening, we are not necessarily agreeing to sell these lots until we get the staff report, at which time we will then make up our mind. Is that correct or incorrect?
It's correct. Further discussion? The last line on here, I would think, the county manager asked me if staff could come back if this carries to come straight to council, not to committee, correct?
Yes, to reiterate, I do not believe we can get this done for December 5th. I don't actually believe we can get it done for December 12th, but at least we'd be a lot closer. The appropriate thing normally is to come to a committee, so you'd only get 1 crack at it rather than 2. But realistically, I don't think we can comply with the instructions as written. I just don't. And that at least gives us a fighting chance, if you consider that.
Councillor Height, do you want to put for consideration on December 12th, 2017, or leave as is? It's your motion.
I'm just tagging the whole month, Mr. Mayor. I don't care if it comes on Christmas Day.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I think we've had enough. Mr. Clerk, please.
Councillor Height.
Yes.
Councillor Geisens. Councillor Columbus. Councillor Oliver.
No.
Councillor Sonnenberg. Councillor Wells. Councillor Black.
No.
Councillor Brunton. Mayor Luke.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-2.
I think it's break time. We don't need a motion to break. We'll be back in action here for a public meeting at 5:30.
On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along.
I'd like to get started in 1 minute, please, if you can find your seats, council members. You ready to go over there? You ready to go? All set. Well, welcome back, everybody. We're 35 minutes late. My apologies to those that are here for the 5 o'clock public meeting. We'll get right to it. I now officially open the public meetings held under the Planning Act and the Municipal Act. I'll advise those in attendance that the Ontario Municipal Board has the power under the Planning Act to dismiss an appeal to either a zoning bylaw and/or an official plan amendment if the appellant does not make oral submissions at the public meeting today or does not make a written submission to Norfolk County Council before the zoning bylaw is passed and/or before the official plan amendment is adopted. Council, I'm on page 89. Page 89, you will find staff report DCS 17-79. This is an application that has been received to construct an accessory building requiring relief of 95.1 square meters from the maximum permitted usable floor area of 100 square meters to permit a floor area of 195.1 square meters. Will Dreger, on behalf of Kara Dreger, has put forth the application. It affects the lands described as 3658 Highway 59. I now open the public meeting on this staff report, DCS 17-79. I see that Ms. Alicia Cull is here to give us her report. How are you? You ready to roll? It's all yours. Thank you.
So as the mayor stated, this is an application for an accessory building in the hamlet of Andes Corners. The property is designated hamlet in the official plan and zoned hamlet residential. This application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and complies with the policies of the official plan. Staff consider it to be appropriate zoning and good planning in this area, and we did not receive any input from surrounding neighbors. Staff support this application and recommend that it be approved.
Thank you very much. I first want to ask if Will or Kara Dreja or their agent is here this evening. Will? Thank you. I'll be with you in a moment. Is there anyone in attendance this evening who wished to speak in support of the application? And as always, we give the applicant or agent the first chance to speak in support. Will, do you wish to come and say anything?
Good evening, Councilman, Mr. Mayor. The reason we're looking to build a bigger shop is we're building a new home. Our current home, we have 2 shops and 2 sheds. And with the new house, we just didn't want multiple buildings on the property. So that's the reason why we're looking at 2,100 square feet versus the allowed 1,100.
Thank you. Any questions for this gentleman? Councillor Wells, please.
Will you be removing the structures you have on there, the small units? Or you can-
The small units are on my current property. This is a new residence that we're building. So it'll just be a house and shop.
Any other questions from council? None at the moment. Thank you, Mr. Dreger. You can be seated, please. Thank you. Is there anyone else in attendance who wishes to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in opposition or in general to this application? Anything further from council? A motion to close the public meeting. Wells has moved, Oliver seconded. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. What's your wishes, council? Councillor Geisens?
I will move the
Recommendation for approval? Yes. Thank you, sir. Councillor Columbus, or did you have your hand up second? Thank you. Geisens has moved, Columbus has seconded. The applicant of Will Dreger. 1675 Highway 3, RR3 Delhi, Ontario. This is concession 13 in North Walsingham of Norfolk County. This is to amend our zoning bylaw 1Z 2014. The file number is there, gentlemen. Recommended for approval, and the reasons are set out in this report 17-79. There was no public input for this application, and therefore will not be considered as part of the decision. Discussion on the recommendation. If not, those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. I'm on to page 99, staff report. Next, DCS 1780. An application has been received to rezone the subject lands from agricultural zone to hamlet residential to facilitate the creation of 2 new lots. The lands are designated hamlet in the official plan. Tony Fernandez Pez and agent George B. Santos have put forth the application. It affects the lands at 965 Cockshut Road. I do now open the public meeting on staff report DCS 17-80. Alicia, I believe, again, this is your report, if you wish to present. Thank you.
So as the mayor stated, the applicant's proposing to rezone these lands from agricultural to hamlet residential, and the lands are located in Renton. And the applicant is proposing to sever 2 lots should this application be approved. We did receive 1 letter of support from a neighbor, and we also on Friday received a letter of opposition from the Ministry of Transportation. The ministry outlined that they cannot support the rezoning as they will not issue any additional entrance permits at this location. So staff are of the opinion that the zoning can still be supported as the hamlet residential zoning is logical in the hamlet of Renton and makes more sense than the agricultural zoning. And at this time will not change the ability for the applicant to get any additional lots. He will still need to go through the severance process, and we will attempt to work with the Ministry of Transportation between now and then. It's also been outlined by the agent for the applicant that they do have one entrance at that location already, so they likely could sever one lot at least. So staff do support this application and recommend that it be approved.
Thank you very much. Councillor Black, to our planner.
So I guess it just sort of makes it, we're allowed to do it, do the rezoning, and then I guess the problem is between the applicant and Ministry of Transportation. You said that they have one entrance. Do they actually have a legal entrance permit, or is it just one that's there?
Through the mayor, it's my understanding they do have a legal entrance from the Ministry of Transportation. I would ask the agent to speak more to that in a couple minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Further? Councillor Columbus?
Mr. Mayor, my question to staff is about, just general question, perhaps with respect to any wooded lot where there's tree cover, no buildings on it, and somebody wants to put a building up and they have to remove some trees. Is that possible? Like, do they have to get all the environmental assessment approvals for something like that, being they just want to put a house up or a shop?
Through the mayor, in this case, they did complete an environmental impact study. So it is still, they submitted terms of reference because it's designated significant woodlands, and the study's being completed, and it will be required to be completed prior to the severances going forward. If they wanted to build as of right with a building permit, then the environmental impact study is not required.
Okay, so if they want to build a house, they still have to go through this process for environmental impact study.
Through the mayor, for a planning application, they do, yes.
You just can't butcher the trees and
That's right.
apply for a permit. Okay, thank you.
Any further? Not at the moment. See, Mr. George Santos is here. Welcome, George. Is Tony not with you this evening? Okay, I'm going to get right to you. You can make your way to the microphone. Is there anyone in attendance that wishes to speak in support of the application? Of course, the agent or applicant may go first. Mr. Santos.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, staff, public, the viewers out in TV land. It's fairly clear, Mr. Mayor and staff and councilors, what's being requested here. We basically have an agricultural zone. We've requested it in the hamlet residential, so we're going from A to RH. Dealing with the MTO, I've only spoken with them back in September, and they're a different crop of individuals. The MTO out of London, the gentleman I spoke with truly believes that he has royal assent, but at the end of the day, it comes to working together and building bridges. My brother-in-law, Tony, has access to this property. The MTO tried back in August, Mr. Mayor and Council, to purchase this property from him because they're planning to clean out the drains and refurbish Highway 3 from Renton, I believe, to Highway 6. From Renton into Simcoe up towards the old OPP station, if I'm not mistaken. So he declined that offer of $3,085 for that portion of property. Luckily, he did. So we do have access, as Mrs. Call has referred to. It is legal, so we do have a permit. With regards to the two lots, we'll wait and see. It's first going through step one, which is council and getting permission. Once that works, then it's a matter of going to the MTO and working with them, and if need be, flexing a political muscle with regards to getting the Minister of Transport involved here, because at the end of the day, the corridor Highway 3 is no longer going to be a 4-lane highway. Highway 3 is Highway 3, 2 lanes. At one time, as we all know, between Windsor and Buffalo or Fort Erie, it was known as the main corridor. As we know, it no longer is. It's here. Luckily we have Highway 3, a number of other highways, But the attitude of the Ministry of Transportation out of London is just unbelievable. But that's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor and Council. So if you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer them on behalf of my brother-in-law, Tony.
Any questions for Mr. Santos? Councillor Brunton?
Yes, very quickly, Mayor Luke, through you to George. I'm on page 109. I guess, I don't know if you have that, but your frontage is 161 meters or 181 meters. I can't read that very well, even with my glasses on. Anyways, the frontage on the highway. My question is, do you know approximately where your access is located right now?
Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Brunton, from what I understand, the access is on the west side of this lot. And when I refer to the west side, so if we're looking at the map, my pages, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Brunton versus your pages, and the numbering system is maybe different, but the subject lands,
To the west.
I would say to the west. So it's the west corner. There's entrance in the west corner.
Now, do you know how wide that is roughly?
I don't.
Right now, currently?
To be very honest with you, no, I don't have those measurements.
Okay, well, all right, I'll just leave it at that for now. But if you relocate that entrance at the right spot and it's wide enough, maybe you can provide two entrances.
Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Brunton, and that's a possibility. I think that's something that I would have to do with my brother-in-law, sit down with the MTO, just so that everyone is aware. Anyone looking at this map, across from these two subject lands, there are 4 entrances that are facing us. And so it's not, it's not unreasonable to request 2 entrances. Again, we might have 1 entrance and it might be divided amongst the 2 lots. I'm not sure. We'll wait and see. I believe my brother-in-law, Tony, wishes to have separate entrances because each lot, one is for the daughter, one is for the son. So my niece and nephew basically want separate entrances. So that's where we're at, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Further? Columbus?
Mayor, to George, in negotiating with the MTO, I know that there have been times when the applicant, like yourself, or Mr. Santos, Mr. Pay, can purchase an entrance from someone else on that strip of highway.
Was that right?
If they'd be willing to sell it. I know that has happened
Okay.
between Delhi and Simcoe.
Okay, very good. Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Columbus, thank you very much. I'll take that into account. And again, the letter that came from the MTO, I mean, anyone reading it thinks it's black and white. I see some gray in that letter, and I think at the end of the day, there has to be a compromise. I mean, the people that own the highway are the people, the public. And for them to take that approach is definitely unbelievable, but they are who they are.
Further questions? Thank you, Mr. Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in attendance who wishes to speak in support of this application?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, before I just step down, I just wanted to say, Mr. Mayor and Council, to the staff, very impressed since I walked in July, to the staff, the frontline staff, to dealing with Mrs. Call and her staff. I'm very impressed. I know we always hear negativity and cutbacks and so on and so forth, but as a taxpayer, I'm impressed, and my brother-in-law is very much impressed with the staff and how we've come to this point. Thank you.
Thank you for those compliments. Anyone else who wishes to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in opposition or in general to this application? Anything further from council? A motion to close this public meeting. Councillor Wells has moved. Councillor Height has seconded. Those in favor? That is carried. What's your wishes? Councillor Brunton? Approval? Thank you. I need a seconder to that. Councillor Sonnenberg? Brunton has moved. Sonnenberg has seconded that the application of Tony Pace, 111 Concession 13, excuse me, of Townsend. This affects the lands described as Lot 12 Concession 6 in the geographic township of Woodhouse in Norfolk County. This is to amend, excuse me, our zoning bylaw 1Z 2014. File number is in front of you, gentlemen. It's to be approved for reasons set out in the report 17-80 that public input has been received for this application and therefore will be considered as part of this decision, and that relates to the letter in your package tonight in support. Discussion on the motion. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. I'm now on page 115. Staff report 1781, an application has been received to extend a temporary use bylaw on the subject lands to permit the continuation of a garden suite for an additional 4-year period. Eva Stasila and agent Linda Parrick has put forth the application affecting the lands described as 850 Second Concession Road, ENR, and this is Unit 00852 in Langton. Alicia, I'm wondering if you've upset your boss. I mean, there are 4 reports. You have been given the work to do 3, and there's Matt going to just come in for 1. Anyhow, we won't get into that tonight. I now open the public meeting on the staff report, and Alicia, would you please give us your report? Thank you.
So this is an application to extend a garden suite for an additional 4-year period on this property in the former geographic township of Houghton. And the lands are designated agricultural and hazard lands and zoned agricultural. Staff are satisfied that the justified need for the garden suite does remain to exist, and no input was received from neighbors. Staff support this application and recommend that it be approved.
Thank you. Is Eva Stasila or the agent Linda Parrick in attendance? No? Okay, we'll proceed. Is there anyone in attendance this evening that wishes to speak in support of this application to extend the use of the granny flat for another 4 years? Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in opposition or in general to this application? Anything further from council? Councilor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 quick questions, I guess, and I'm sure the first one is a typo, but I know the reference to the report talks about a 4-year extension. On page 119 under conclusion, it makes reference to a recommendation for a period of 3 years. So just to be abundantly clear, it is for 4 years, not 3. Correct?
Through the mayor, that is a typo. You're correct. It's 4 years.
I assume that, Mr. Mayor. And finally, I know it's been just a couple of years since we changed, or the Planning Act probably changed, and we now have to set a maximum of 20, after which people have to make a brand new application. Do we, as a matter of course, now inform applicants such as these folks who are being given the last 4-year or 3-year, whatever, extension, that next time, if they still have that need, they will have to make a new application and pay a new fee of some sort? Is that communicated every time to applicants in this situation?
Through the mayor, yes, it is always communicated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll need a motion to close this public meeting. Wells has moved. Sonnenberg has seconded that we do close the public meeting. Councilor Height.
Move to approve.
All in favor of closing the public meeting? You're way ahead of me.
I'm ready, Mr. Mayor.
To be that young again, I would just, oh boy. Okay, Councilor Height has moved approval. I will need a seconder. Councilor Geisens, and with your permission, Councilor Height, I'm going to read it before I call the question. And then you may vote. Then you may vote. Moved by Councilor Height, seconded by Councilor Geisen, the application of Eva Stasila 852, the second concession in Langton, Ontario. This affects the lands as part of Lot 9, Concession 2, geographic